I'm Marcia Kelb, a member of the Brewster Ponds Coalition Education Committee. Brewster Ponds Coalition's mission is protecting the health, the beauty, and enjoyment of Brewster Ponds. We are very pleased to join with local author Susan Baur, who has written 4 Turtle Sister books that speak of pond life. And I'd like to introduce Susan Baur.
Hi, my name is Susan Baur, and it's safe. You can take the mask off. Take the mask off. And I am also known as the Turtle Lady, and I am the author and the illustrator of, I'm going to talk about you. Come on. I am the author and the illustrator of the 4 Turtle Sisters books. And I also go around for many schools from Falmouth to Chatham, talking about the Turtle Sisters books and reading them to you and showing you videos underwater of the turtles that I see. So let's start, and I'm going to read you the second of the Turtle Sisters books. It's called The Turtle Sisters Learn the Best New Trick. And this is what I learned from swimming many times with turtles. One afternoon, the Turtle Sisters, Daphne and Chloe, heard a rumbling and bumbling above their small Cape Cod pond. The water grew dark. Towers of weed that grew from the pond floor waved from side to side. "What's going on?" asked Chloe. "It's a storm," answered Daphne, stretching her long neck upward. "Let's take a look." The 2 little stinkpot turtles swam to the surface. Raindrops hit them on the head, and waves bounced them up and down. All they could see in every direction were gray clouds blowing across a gray pond. There were no fishermen in boats, no dogs chasing balls, no swimmers going boom, boom, boom and splash, splash, splash through the water. "No tasty treats tonight," sighed Chloe, as she thought of the noisy thing with no shell, who used to swim over their pond every afternoon and drop treats for them to eat. They hadn't seen the noisy thing all spring. "It won't come today, not in a storm," said Chloe. "No, it won't," said her sister. "But the rain will wash worms into the pond." "I dream of worms," said Chloe. So turtles really love fresh worms. In fact, when fishermen are fishing, sometimes the stinkpot turtles will steal up and try and pull a worm off the fisherman's hook. The sisters returned to the bottom of the pond. Using their sharp eyes and their keen noses, they began searching for worms. "I smell one!" shouted Chloe. She moved her head back and forth. "Over here." She raced around an old log, and sure enough, there was a long, lovely worm. But just as she reached for it, a very big stinkpot turtle came racing toward her. "Mine!" he shouted. Chloe grabbed the worm and spun around, but the big turtle yanked it right out of her mouth and gobbled it up. "No fair," said Chloe. Then Daphne saw a worm. "Mine!" she cried, but down through the water came the same big stinkpot turtle and snapped it up. "What about us?" the Turtle Sisters cried. "When is it our turn?" The big turtle turned and glared at them. "It's never your turn," he said crossly. "But little turtles want worms too," said Chloe. "Too bad," said the turtle. "In a pond, big animals grab all the food they can get." Imagine Thanksgiving dinner like that at your house. "I don't like being little," wailed Chloe, as the sisters swam back to their home under a tangle of pine branches. "Everyone takes things away from me." Daphne was quiet. She was thinking. Suddenly she said, "I have an idea. Let's find the smallest fish and the smallest turtles and see how they keep their food away from big, grabby creatures. We need some new tricks." As the rain stopped and the sun came out, the Turtle Sisters saw something black hiding in the weeds. It was a baby painted turtle eating roots. "No one will grab his food," Daphne said, because they can't see him. And because nobody really wants to eat roots, said Chloe. Next, the Turtle Sisters saw a young stinkpot turtle scooting into the reeds with a bug in its mouth. Big turtles can't follow him into the reeds and grab his dinner, said Daphne. The water is too shallow. We can do that, said Chloe. We can eat roots if we have to, and we can take our food under the pine branches where no one can get it. Finally, the sisters saw a cloud of tiny fish milling around a cracker. Each little fish bit off a crumb. Watch and learn, said Daphne. A big fish can snatch food away from some of them, but it can't get it from all of them. We can do that, said Chloe. Neat trick. Just then the little turtles heard a faint sound. It was a tiny splish and then a tiny splash. What could that be? Asked Chloe. The Turtle Sisters listened as hard as they could. The sound grew louder. Boom, boom, boom it went, and splash, splash, splash. Something big was swimming straight toward them. The noisy thing, they cried together. It's the noisy thing without the shell that sometimes brings us tasty treats. The sisters swam as fast as they could to the noisy thing. Burble, burble, glub, it said happily, and held out a tasty treat. The Turtle Sisters were glad to see the noisy thing, and the noisy thing was glad to see them. But as it gave them a tasty treat, no one noticed that deep in the leafy pond weeds, a young snapping turtle was staring at them intently. What was going on, he wanted to know, and what was that delicious smell? The next time the noisy thing came to the pond, the Turtle Sisters jumped off the bottom to greet it. Treats, sang Chloe. Treats, echoed Daphne. Treats? Asked another voice. Suddenly, the snapping turtle popped out of the weeds. It wanted treats, too. No, no, cried the Turtle Sisters, swimming away at full speed. We're not treats for a snapping turtle, because a large snapping turtle will eat very small other turtles. Even the noisy thing backed away from the snapping turtle. The noisy thing didn't offer it a shrimp. It didn't offer it anything. Treats? Asked the snapping turtle again, but the noisy thing was swimming away. Oh no, said Chloe, once the sisters were safe in their home. That snapping turtle is going to grab all our tasty treats. Or he'll grab us, said Daphne. It's scary being little in a pond. When the noisy thing returned, it didn't bring treats anymore. Well, I guess that's okay, said Chloe. We don't want that snapping turtle coming by and eating us. We'll play bump instead, suggested Daphne as they climbed onto the noisy thing's hand. When you wiggle your fingers, we go bump on your fingers. And when you wiggle your toes, we go bump on your toes. Turtles bump the way dogs sniff. It's how we learn about our world. Burble, burble, glub, said the noisy thing. It didn't understand a thing, but it liked the game. So that is actually how I learned never to feed wild animals, because you have unintended consequences. Snapping turtles will come and get you. So that's how we all learned. For most of that long, lazy summer, the noisy thing came to the pond every afternoon, but it had learned never to bring treats. It played bump with the sisters and watched them practice their new tricks. They ate roots where no one could see them. They carried food under their pine branches. They held on tight to little pieces of worm and let the big turtles take the rest. As the summer passed, they grew big and strong. Then one afternoon, up swam the snapper again. Daphne and Chloe gave a shout, but before they could race away, a painted turtle swam right up to the snapping turtle. Good afternoon, Snapper Jack, the painted turtle said pleasantly. What are you doing here? The snapping turtle, named Jack, stuck his long neck out toward the painted turtle and went bump on its shell. Aren't you scared? Whispered Chloe loudly to the painted turtle. We're scared. "Of course not," said the painted turtle. "Only little fish and little turtles are afraid of snapping turtles. Once you're big, with a big hard shell, a snapper will grab your food if he can, but he won't grab you." "I'm not convinced," whispered Chloe. "No, really," the painted turtle insisted. "There's a time to be afraid and a time not to be afraid. Watch me," he continued, and he and his painted turtle friends swam off, practically riding on Snapper Jack's broad back. All through September, as the water cooled, Daphne and Chloe watched Snapper Jack. They saw him lying in the weeds in the daytime. They saw him floating to the surface at night. "Watch and learn," Daphne told herself again. "If we live in a pond with snapping turtles, someday we have to stop running away. That would be our best new trick." Finally, the day came when Snapper Jack swam right up to the Turtle Sisters. The Turtle Sisters held their breath, but they didn't swim away. The Snapper looked at Daphne, and then at Chloe, and then he drifted off. Chloe let out her breath in a stream of silver bubbles. "I don't think I'm scared anymore," she whispered. "I don't think I am either," said Daphne. "New trick," they shouted together. "Best new trick." As the days grew shorter and the water colder, the turtles got ready to hibernate for the winter. When the noisy thing came to the pond in October, Daphne and Chloe brought Snapper Jack with them to say goodbye. "Look," cried Chloe, as she and Daphne swam back and forth in front of Jack. "New trick! We're not afraid anymore." "Burble, burble," said the noisy thing cautiously, but it wouldn't let Snapper Jack get close. "Maybe next year," said Daphne. "Maybe it will learn the best new trick next year." The three turtles sank slowly toward the muddy bottom of the pond. "Is there always a next year?" asked Chloe. Daphne hung in the water. "I don't know," she said, "but I think there's always a time to stop being afraid." And that is the end of that book.
So we'd really like to thank Susan for coming and sharing her books with us and reading them in front of this beautiful pond. We want to let you know too that the Brewster Ponds Coalition partners with the Brewster Bookstore, who carries all of Susan's books. So please take care of our ponds.